Welcome everyone. Today I will be reviewing and discussing the animation short film Timber, made by Nils Hedinger, made in 2014, and I will get into what he has to say about the film after the initial review. Make sure you like the video and subscribe if you want to see more from me. And I would say, go watch the original before you watch this. I will have it linked in the description down below. Now let's begin. Now before we start, I searched around for the names of these characters, and basically I found what kind of trees they are, and I will be addressing them as such. So there's the elder oak, then there's pine and birch, and this guy I'll just call log because fuck this guy. And lastly, our hero of the story will be called Bam, since he is a bamboo tree log. So we start out with Bam waking up Oak, and as Oak gets up, we see they are in a snowy wasteland with stumps of cut down trees all around them. We see the rest of the cast walk into frame, and they all hunker down where they are as it keeps getting colder as the night goes on. Oak sees how cold Bam is getting and decides to break his walking stick and makes a fire out of them. Now, where did he get the matches from? My best guess is he got them from the lumberjacks that cut down the forest, because they might have just dropped them as they were working. The fire starts to go out, but Bam has an idea to use parts of themselves to keep the fire going. So he pulls off the one leaf he has, and the others do the same, taking parts of themselves off to keep the fire going and to keep the group warm. Except for Log.
Fuck this guy!
As the night goes on, the fire starts to die out again, and Birch gives Log the idea to take a huge chunk out of Pine. They both attack him and push Bam away for trying to stop them. Oak also tries to stop them, but they push him away as well, and unfortunately he rolls onto the fire and starts getting engulfed in flames. Bam tries to help him, but can't, or he'll be set on fire as well. And both of them finish breaking a huge chunk off of Pine, now using him as a seat while putting a piece of him on the burning Oak, who looks terrified of what's happening. And Pine at this point just looks mentally broken, like there's nothing going on up there anymore. Bam tries to fight back again, but Log then holds him over the fire, torturing him with the flames. Bam manages to bite him, causing Log to throw him away, while Birch just laughs at him because someone as little as Bam hurt him. Log does not take kindly to this and picks up Birch, ready to throw him in the fire, but sees Pine trying to stop him, so he just uses Birch to beat him into the fire. After tossing them both into the fire, he looks both comfortable and pleased with himself. Bam sneaks back over to get some warmth from the fire, and a piece of Oak's face falls in front of him. Oak looks at him, and I would assume he's saying something to the effect of, "It's okay," or "It's not your fault," to console Bam before he dies. Bam seems to say back, "Yeah, I know," and proceeds to pick up that piece of Oak and sneak up on Log. Log actually pauses in what seems like surprise and fear, seeing the face of someone he already killed. So Bam is able to bash his face in with it and knocking him into the fire. Log is unable to get up and burns alongside everybody else, while Oak finally dies as well and is placed on the fire. Bam eventually falls asleep into the night, waking up the next morning with the fire dying out and the sound of chainsaws cutting down more of the forest. Now, let's talk about the characters, starting off with the old Oak. He is clearly the elder of the group, and character design-wise, he looks elderly, along with having a walking stick. And even the first shot of the film is him waking up alongside Bam, getting us to connect with both of them first. After the group is all together, he then sees that Bam, the youngest in the group, is being affected by the cold the most out of all of them, and sacrifices his walking stick to make a fire to keep the group warm. He does get upset at Bam, probably because he's wondering why he would hurt himself by pulling off his leaf, but then realizes he was sacrificing a part of himself to keep the group warm and does the same. Then, while Log is assaulting Pine, he tries to shield Bam from the violence by covering his eyes. He then finally intervenes once Bam gets hurt and promptly gets killed for it. Then, even in his dying moments, he seems to still want to console Bam. The core of his character was to look out for the smallest and youngest in the group, and seemed to be the leader at the beginning, just wanting to keep everybody safe. Alright, next is Pine, and he just gets violated throughout this whole thing. He was just a victim here, and was the one I felt the most sorry for out of all the characters. He was one of the ones shaking the most from the cold, and seemed to be the one most scared of the fire when Oak started it. Then Birch and Log ganged up on him, tearing a huge chunk out of him. Then he is just used as a seat by Log, and tries one last-ditched effort to fight back when he sees he is about to kill Birch, and just gets whacked into the fire with him. And that's the last we see of him doing anything in the film. I think out of everybody, he had the saddest story here. Next up is Birch, and I think he is a follower, plain and simple. He is someone who doesn't have the strength to lead, but will find any way to benefit himself by siding with the party he sees as the strongest. We see, like everyone else, he sacrificed a part of himself to grow the fire, but that was most likely because everyone else was doing it. He then realized that him and Log were the two strongest in the group, and instead of just going for Pine, he proposed the plan to Log first, and then proceeded to help him do it. If Log declined the plan, he would have backed down and not have attacked Pine. He then laughed at Log because he got hurt by someone as small as Bam, which made Log break a branch off of him. He was distressed for a second, but he coped with it because he is willing to lose a branch if he can still benefit from Log. But unfortunately for him, just like he was using Log, Log was just using him as well, since probably he couldn't be as cruel as he was if the other four ganged up on him. But because he wanted to take the easy route, it ended up with the deaths of Oak, Pine, and ultimately himself. Now I'm going to do our protagonist Bam next, because I want to save Log for last, because I got a lot to say about him. The first thing we see him do is wake up Oak and help him get to his feet. So we already have a sweet impression of him right off the bat. Character design wise, he gives off that he is the youngest in the group, along with being the weakest on the account of his size as well. Along with being happy waking up Oak, he was also glad to see everyone else come into the group, running over and smiling at them. He also wasn't scared of the fire when it was lit, and since it was going out, he was the first to willingly sacrifice a part of himself to keep everyone else warm. And because of his benevolent self-sacrifice, almost everyone followed in suit. Then he sees Pine being assaulted by Log, tries to actually defend him, but he really stands no chance against anyone in the group. He then has to watch Pine get mangled and Oak burn alive, which fills him with righteous anger, but quickly gets overpowered again as Log begins to torture him over the fire. He's able to escape from Log by biting him, but then has to watch from afar as he kills Birch and Pine. Then we finally see him use Oak to put down Log as he mourns everyone by the fire and is able to safely sleep until the next day, waking up to what seems like the cycle starting all over again. Now this motherfucker right here is simply just encompassing so many traits I would hate in a person. Even when they are all being warmed up by the fire, this man is frowning. Then when everyone's contributing to the fire, he's just looking at them like, what? I'm just thinking, like, bitch, you can just take that one leaf you have off your head. A point where I don't get kind of mad at him is when Bam tries to take some of his bark off and he stops him. I can kind of understand not wanting somebody to forcefully take a piece off of you. You shouldn't force someone to contribute if they don't want to, but you are in the right if you want to kick them out of the group, which all of them together could have. Then he hears Birch's idea to forcibly take a chunk off of Pine, and he's just like,
"That's a great idea. I'm with that."
I do think he burns Oak alive accidentally, but he doesn't really care anyway, since he did not try to save him at all. And then he still proceeds to tear off a chunk of Pine anyway, even though they don't need it anymore. He then further bullies Pine by sitting on him, and when Bam fights back again, instead of just tossing him into the fire, he purposely tortures him by slowly burning him over the fire. After he gets hurt by Bam and Birch laughs at him for it, he then feels disrespected and just says, "Fuck it," and kills everyone, not needing Birch anymore, since no one now can overpower him. He looks pretty satisfied with himself, probably just thinking Bam ran off somewhere, and then we see how he reacts to seeing Oak's face. It would basically be the equivalent of a killer seeing the ghost of a person he just killed and actually left him stunned for a few seconds. But he then realizes what's happening and was going to go for Bam, but he is too late and gets his face bashed in, stumbling back into the fire, being burned to death like all his other victims. This film was made in Switzerland by Niels Hettinger. He said he always had an image of logs burning each other because it was simply an interesting scenario and can be seen as a metaphor in society. And I can definitely see that with the log in the most extreme circumstances being justifiable in his actions to survive the cold, but he quickly goes from sacrificing others for survival to doing it simply for comfort and power. I could also see this animation having an environmental message with the cutting down of the forest, basically saying because of deforestation, animals are forced into similar situations like we saw in the video. We even see that Bam was able to survive the ordeal, but he is powerless to stop this cycle from repeating itself again by the time he wakes up in the morning. And I'm sure you guys have your own interpretations of the film, so I would love to read them in the comments. I think that's all I really got to say about the film, so make sure you like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. I look forward to talking with you guys, and I will see you guys later. Bye, guys.